If you're like most people, buying a home.
Mm,
It feels like the ultimate financial landmark.
it really does. It's the goal, the big investment, the symbol that you've made it.
But if you've been anywhere near the market recently, or if you already own a home, you know that sticker prices, well, it's just the start.
Oh, it's more than the start. Our deep dive into these sources shows that the list price is, frankly, a fundamental financial lie.
A lie. That's a strong word.
I think it's fair. Most buyers, they're just focused on that one number,
Yeah.
the mortgage. And they're totally ignoring these silent, subtle costs that just creep up over time.
Absolutely. And that's what we're doing today, right? We're ripping the cover off those hidden fees.
Mm.
And we're not just talking about, a busted pike here and there.
No.
We're talking about the true multifaceted costs of housing. And that includes how this whole system of bureaucracy and red tape is just artificially inflating prices for everyone.
Exactly. Our mission today is to give you that complete picture. We have to move beyond just the individual budget spreadsheet and look at the external structural forces.
The market instability, the political friction, all of it.
All of it. The things that are really impacting your ability to find and, just as importantly, keep some housing stability in the long term.
Okay, let's unpack this then. What are some of these less obvious costs that can turn that dream asset into, well, a continuous financial drain?
Well, the first surprise hits you almost immediately, right at the closing table.
Closing costs.
Closing costs. And it's not just a handshake and getting the keys. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got appraisal fees, title insurance, legal fees.
Money you have to pay upfront, in cash.
In cash. And it can be several percent of the entire loan. It's a huge, often unpredictable expense that hits you right at the end of the process.
And then the surprises just keep coming, month after month, year after year.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about property taxes. This is a huge one. They vary wildly by location, of course, but the critical thing is they are not fixed.
Right. Your property gets reassessed and suddenly your bill jumps.
Exactly. And you're basically paying tax on, speculative profit you haven't even earned.
Yeah.
It's real cash leaving your pocket every month, even if you have no plans to sell.
And then you've got your homeowner's insurance, which the lender requires.
Mandatory. And utilities. Don't even get me started on utilities for an older home. Poor insulation and aging furnace. That could be a shock.
Okay, so that's 4. What's the 5th category? The one that's the real budget killer.
It's the one you always think you can put off. Maintenance and repairs.
Yes. The leaky faucet, the roof that's on its last legs.
And you can't defer it forever. What starts as a small leak can become, serious structural damage if you ignore it.
All right.
The sources suggest budgeting 1 to 3% of the home's value every year.
Wow. 1 to 3%. So for a $500,000 home, that could be $15,000 a year you need to have saved just for upkeep.
Just for upkeep. And if you don't, that deferred cost turns into high-interest credit card debt when the HVAC system finally gives out.
Okay, so now layer all of that on top of what the sources call the volatility trap.
Yeah, this is key. When the market is booming, it feels great, right? Your equity is soaring.
But when it dips, that stability just vanishes,
And suddenly your home might be worth less than you paid for it. You're underwater.
which makes long-term planning almost impossible. If you have to move for a job, you could be forced to bring cash to closing just to sell your own house.
It turns an asset into a liability almost overnight. And this is where the long-term repercussions really kick in. If you've overextended yourself on a house that needs constant repairs, it's like a car that's always in the shop.
It just starves every other part of your financial life.
Exactly. You can't save for retirement, you can't invest, you can't start a business. It's a massive drag on everything.
So those are the internal pressures. Let's zoom out a bit.
Hmm.
It's easy to just blame high prices on, supply and demand, but the sources point to something else.
Mm-hmm. The sheer weight of bureaucracy.
Hmm.
This is a huge and I think overlooked inflationary factor, especially for new construction.
It's not just a supply shortage, it's a regulatory chokehold.
It's an absolute maze. For a developer to get a project off the ground, they have to navigate endless permits, really archaic zoning laws, lengthy environmental reviews.
And endless public meetings and consultation.
Right. And every single one of those hurdles, every signature, adds time. And for a developer holding millions in loans, time is, quite literally, money.
This is what the sources call the cost of delays. And the numbers are staggering.
They really are. Some estimates say these delays can add thousands of dollars per unit per month.
Per month.
So imagine a project that should take 18 months, but it gets dragged out to 3 years because of procedural nonsense.
And all that cost. The extra interest on the loan, the rising cost of materials, it doesn't just get absorbed by the builder.
Of course not. It's passed directly onto the buyer. It's a huge reason new housing has become so unattainable for so many people.
And it doesn't even stop there, does it?
Yeah.
There's also the litigation barrier.
Yeah, this is a major structural problem. Lawsuits are often filed just to slow things down. They don't even target the build quality.
They target procedural issues,
Yeah.
like a technicality.
Exactly. A missed sign-off, a tiny flaw in the environmental report. It's all designed to create uncertainty and add massive legal costs. Lenders hate that uncertainty.
So they won't finance the project.
Or they'll make the terms much worse. And a lot of times, the project just gets shelved altogether, so that neighborhood opposition, using the system's own complexity against itself, it just shrinks the housing supply even more.
And makes what little housing is available that much more expensive. It's like a hidden tax.
A tax on the willingness to build anything new.
This raises an important question then. When housing stops being a reliable asset and becomes this unattainable asset for most people, what are the ripple effects?
Oh, the repercussions are massive. You see it immediately with the middle class, with younger generations. They're just stuck renting.
And paying huge rents that eat up all the income they would have used for savings or starting a family.
They're paying someone else's mortgage, basically, without building any equity of their own. And that instability, it puts huge pressure on major life decisions.
You put off having kids, you don't start that small business.
You feel locked into a job you hate just to make that high rent payment. And then there's the social impact. Think about labor mobility.
Essential workers, teachers, nurses, police officers.
They can't afford to live in the communities they serve. If your first responders have a 90-minute commute, the quality of life for everyone in that community goes down.
Which then brings us to the macro level, economic competitiveness.
Absolutely. Companies want to be where their employees can afford to live. If a city's housing is just out of reach, businesses will go elsewhere. They'll take the jobs with them. It's a domino effect.
And the data, it really backs this up. The sources pointed to a market snapshot. What was it? National home sales dropped by?
It was negative 11.1% year over year in 2023, and then another big drop, minus 10% in April 2025.
So it's not just slow sales. It's market paralysis.
It's total paralysis. Prices are sky high, but nobody can actually transact. It just shows how unstable and dysfunctional the whole system has become.
So when the cost of shelter becomes the biggest barrier for the middle class, you don't just have a housing problem. You have a full-blown economic crisis.
Which brings us to solutions. The sources are really clear on this. We can't fix this just by throwing subsidies at the problem.
Because that doesn't fix the underlying issue.
No, we need a fundamental shift, a structural shift in how we even think about housing.
The sources talk about moving away from housing as a speculative asset.
Yeah.
Something you just flip for a quick profit.
Right, and moving back towards viewing it as a livable space, a foundation for life, for shelter, for a community.
And encouraging that shift would help stabilize things, right?
Yeah.
It would reduce the blind bidding wars.
It would. It brings prices back towards a property's actual utility and value. And that stability is vital for everyone, first-time buyers, families, everyone.
So how do we get there? What are the specific policy opportunities that can tackle those root causes, that bureaucracy we talked about?
Well, there are three key areas. Number one is zoning reform.
Getting rid of those old laws that only allow for one type of house.
Exactly. We need to allow for more diverse housing. Rentals, duplexes, townhomes. One really powerful strategy is just reducing minimum lot sizes. It allows builders to use land more efficiently and create more starter homes.
Okay, so that helps with the type of housing. But what about the cost of all that red tape?
That's number two, streamlined permitting. We need to make the approval process not just faster, but more predictable.
Predictability. So a developer knows it will take, say, exactly 12 months to get approval.
Right. So they can budget for that, they can secure their financing. Predictability lowers risk, which lowers carrying costs, which ultimately means a lower price for the buyer.
In the third area.
Targeted investment. We need to invest in affordable housing based on actual local demand, not just broad political goals. You have to build what the community actually needs.
So if you do all that, the end result is building more resilient communities.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
A resilient community is one where housing is stable, where people aren't constantly getting priced out, when homes are fundamentally affordable, neighborhoods can actually put down roots,
And local economies can thrive. It all comes back to having that stable foundation.
Stable, sensible housing is the precondition for a functioning economy. It's that simple.
So that wraps up our dive. I think the main takeaway is pretty clear. The true price of a home is so much more than the sticker price.
It's the sum of that sticker price plus all the ongoing maintenance, the risk of market volatility, and this huge, silent price of bureaucratic delays and red tape.
So what does this all mean then?
It means that solving this crisis isn't about more subsidies. It's about simplifying the system. It's about reducing that institutional friction that makes it so hard to build in the first place.
The regulatory maze is maybe the single biggest driver of housing costs today, and it's the one we talk about the least.
I think so. And it leads to this really profound disconnect you see sometimes. New condos sitting empty while people are desperate for housing.
Because the system makes it almost impossible to build what people can actually afford.
Exactly. So I'll leave you with this to think about. If we stopped viewing housing as just a vehicle for profit and we refocused on it as a necessary foundation for society, what's the one policy reform you would prioritize to make sure the market works for people who need a place to live, not just for those seeking an investment gain?